3, 2.
Welcome to Crosstown Cardboard, episode 3. I know me and Craig always get so juiced to count it down to the start. I'm Carmine, the sports and news anchor here in Southern Oregon by way of New York, and Crosstown, from where I grew up in Westchester County, also loving cardboard, is Craig, the New York City high school teacher who grew up on Long Island, but now he's in the midst of New York City. And he's a math teacher, but today we have a little history for our lovely viewing audience, which again, thank you for coming back for episode 3. And that history is Mount Rushmore, because we're talking about what attracts us to a card, the Mount Rushmore of what attracts us to a card. And hopefully, you know that means 4 qualities, because we have Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Honest Abe Lincoln, and last but not least, Teddy, a.k.a. Theodore Roosevelt. So before we start, we usually like to, and I say usually, which is a 2-episode trend because now it's episode 3, we like to talk about our new pickups and any personal hobby news before we jump into the Mount Rushmore of what attracts us to a card. So Craig, what's going on in your sports card hobby life there?
You have nailed the introduction, first of all. Great to see you. I love crossing 2 subjects together. Math and history there. There's definitely going to be a little bit of both today, but I don't have any new pickups myself. What I am in the middle of doing is recruiting for Card Club. It's actually kind of fun because sometimes I'll be teaching, maybe I'll be covering for a class, maybe I'm doing hallway duty. I'll get a couple kids here, a couple kids there. So enough numbers just signed up. Figure if I throw everyone a text, I should get a turnout every single time. So that's exciting. Don't have any new pickups, but I graded. And if you've ever graded yourself, my sweet spot, everyone keeps asking me, like, what's your grading strategy and everything. That no one's ever actually asked me that. 2 cards, I usually send 2 to 3 at like the $100 regular PSA, and I've had a lot of luck with it. Quick turnaround. My grades have kind of been good, so I sent 2 in, and the process of doing it yourself is so satisfying. You put it in the right cases, you package it up, you drop it off, and once it's like in the system, like, feel good. My job's done. Now we wait, hopefully only a couple weeks.
Okay, that's great. I just got my first submission back from SGC, which my buddy Jack B. Nimble Cards turned in. So I do have some of those, but I wanted to start off with this recent pickup. If you're watching on YouTube, I, by the way, suggest watching on YouTube on Crosstown Cardboard, because especially this episode is going to be a real big visual one showing off, the Mount Rushmore of what we look for in a card. This one pretty much checked all the boxes for me. If you're not watching, it's a Larry Bird Immaculate Premium Patches on card auto with a piece of the arm sleeve, I'm guessing, of one of Larry Bird's game used jerseys, numbered out of 15. BGS 9 with a 10 auto, and that one basically hits all the boxes for me. As you know, I'm a big Bird guy. You could see right over my left shoulder here, the big guy, number 33. So, Craig, Larry Legend. So before too much, I know people's suspense out there is really building. What's your number 1 Mount Rushmore of what you look for in a card?
Okay, let's get right into it. Really simple. Now, when I talk about picking up a card, something I want in my collection, so the Mount Rushmore, number 1 is it's got to look good. It's got to look cool. It's got to be aesthetically pleasing. You got to look at it, like, wow, this is cool. Now, obviously, different tastes, different people, but you walk by a show, you see a lot of the same stuff, and something just pops out and looks good. I came up with what I think is a good metaphor. You want to get a nice PSA 10 base card. It's clean, gets the job done. You can move it if you need to. I think of it as like the classic Air Force One sneaker.
Okay, I like that.
Gets the job done. Your entry price. Simple, right? Mm-hmm. So many different colorways out there. So the different colorways attract to different people. What do you like? Just whatever, personal preference. Kind of the same thing. So here's an example. Can you think of like mid-2000s Topps Chrome basketball? What those cards look like? Especially 2008 had great photography. Okay. Now here we got a 2008 Topps Chrome Patrick Ewing orange refractor and a PSA 9. I really hope you could see that shine and that photography.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Look at
Going
that.
up for a man's jam.
Oh man, Pat Ewing in the Garden. It looks like
Right,
numbered
and that's
out of
Westbrook's
499, and
is that Westbrook's rookie year, if I'm not mistaken?
it is very good. You know your stuff. So I think that's just a good looking card. My friend Andrew Mung, the other golfer, I know he's going to be listening to this. I really hope he watches it so we can see that because he will appreciate that.
All right, shout out Andrew.
Yeah. One more example. I gave my wife a stack of cards, and I said to her, if you had to hang up one of these for how it looks, which one would you choose? And she chose this Mia Hamm autograph that I know you
Let
know.
me get that. Let me buy that.
Never,
Oh my
never.
gosh.
So the 1010, the black slab with the layout of the card, I'm not leaving this. She's the GOAT too. So looks good. Just a card that looks good. It's clean.
I know that's going to be a tough one to pry off you, but I'll try my best. All right, let me get into my number one, Craig, if you're all set on your number one.
I think so. I mean, I can go on all day about it, but I want to give you your time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Very generous. All right, let's pull up my number one here. And it's in honor of George Washington because he was our first president, of course. So my first quality I look for is the first impression, which I think can be done in the first 10 seconds of seeing a card. For example, let's check out the first impression on, hopefully it comes up, this Aaron Rodgers, okay? Immaculate auto on card at a 10. Why is the first impression so great? To me, personally, because he's doing the discount double check. Signature moves. To me, that's like, boom, that elevates it into a special category for me. If I'm looking at another one, the Big O, Oscar Robertson. This initial first impression, first of all, it's a BGS 9.5 on-card auto. 9 autograph, that's okay. It really hits me.
It's a great set, too. One of the best autograph sets ever.
Exactly. That's what I was going to immediately say. So
99
much so,
Upper Deck Century Legends.
Yes. And so much so, Craig, that the Popo are coming after us for this card in your background audio. Epic
Natural New
signatures,
York
like
City
you said.
sound.
The Big O. And not only that, he signed it Big O. So that was a big initial first impression for me. So my first thing, like you said, in a way, is the cool factor. But it doesn't have to be an iconic player. This one is Gordon Hayward. It hit me right away because it's a gold, flawless, on-card auto at a 10. But check out that chunky patch if you're watching on YouTube. 3-color patch. So that hit me, boom. Great first impression. Although it's not like a marquee name, although it was at one time when he almost hit that half-court shot to beat Duke in the final game, one of their 2 runs in a row.
Imagine that. Off by a few inches.
Off by a few inches, but that initial first impression, and it's game used, by the way, that hit me as the first thing of what I talk about as far as the wow factor. And real quick, when I used to work at ESPN, which we know I like to shamelessly plug
you and Mike.
some of my experience.
You and Mikey B.
I know. Mike Breen will make a mention eventually. But when I used to work at ESPN, I would cut highlights behind the scenes. And we had this guy, Pete, who was our highlight production manager. And he used to always say, if something makes you feel something, whether it's wow, whether it's, somebody goes down with an injury, whether it's, oh my goodness, I can't believe it, whether it's crying or, a fight breaks out, anything that makes you feel an emotion, especially if you say it out loud, clip that and try to find a way to use it in the highlight. A guy has his shirt off, drinking a beer and makes you laugh on the camera in between timeouts. And so I kind of took that into card collecting as far as what's my initial impression of seeing this card. If it gives me an emotional reaction, and there's so many different factors that can do that, that's my first impression. That makes me want the card and maybe might make somebody else interested in it as well.
I love that. And I think I could piggyback off of that perfectly with a very similar number 2. But one more about my number 1. I want to make a point how there's so many different parallels out there, but it's like I said, the colorway, personal preference. Like I'm a big fan of the tie-dye parallel. So here's an early year Giannis tie-dye at a 25. Those are sweet. Beautiful. You talked about your first initial impression. So on my Mount Rushmore, along with needing a car to look cool when I pick it up, I called it the X factor.
Okay.
You called it the wow factor. And the quick note I jotted down was the X factor was you can't explain it. Pictures don't do it justice. For me, at least, you just like hold it, you see it, you know that's the card.
The eye
That's the
test.
one you want. The eye test. X factor, you can't measure it, right? You can't measure it. For me, when I went to national, when I go to shows, I got no plan. No plan. I walk around. If I see something I like, I'll pick it up. I know generally what I like, so if it catches my eye, I know. So this was my big national get. It was the Weston McKinney X Factor. And I can go on all day about him and the team. I will definitely have this one for quite a while because I think he's going to be one of the faces of U.S. soccer for a long time. So being able to hold this card in 2026 when the World Cup is here, he's in his prime. He's an awesome player to watch too. So I'm going to enjoy that. But I saw that at National. It was actually set up at a shop who had flown in from North Dakota. Go figure. This card was sitting in North Dakota. I saw that. I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm walking away from here without this. Saw it. Initial first impression, needed it, had the X Factor. Boom. PC.
And the X Factor, what is it known for? Its uniqueness. And that perfectly goes into my second on the Mount Rushmore, which is unique. And by the way, just a real quick thing on the word unique, it means only one. Like, I know that's a quick broadcaster semantics thing in there, but there's like, this card's unique, but if it's not a one of one, technically it's not because it's only one. But anyway, I don't want to get too far into the
serial numbers. I mean, isn't technically every serial numbered card a 1-of-1 then? It's the only, this is the only 58th copy out of 499.
Right. And that's what people say on eBay. They're like, oh, this is a 1-of-1, even though it's out of 15. So this is Abraham Lincoln because he's unique. The Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, January 1st. I did a little American history research as well for this one. And also the look with the beard, So here's what I want to say.
By the way.
A little history. I
teach so much math, I forget about the important U.S. history. So thank you for the brush up.
See, this is what I try to bring. I just fill in the gaps. Yes, exactly. I try to fill in the very few gaps that you leave. So here's what I kind of discovered as far as a card being unique. I've been going down the dual auto realm because of that, because it automatically adds a little.
My guy. Look at my guy sitting right in front of me.
This seems like, I mean, I did quite a bit of research on Card Ladder, looking up, years back. I'm pretty sure this is the only dual auto between Kevin Garnett and Dennis Rodman. It's an SGC 9 with a 10 auto ultimate collection with game used jerseys in there, numbered out of 25. So like you brought up last week, Craig, on our episode, dual cards could be a risk because if a person doesn't like the other person on that card, they might like Giannis Antetokounmpo. If they don't like Greg Monroe, the deal's off.
You could like Greg Monroe and not like Giannis too.
Yes, and that would make you a 1-of-1 if you did. Which that card was. Mind blown.
Wow.
Okay, so here's another dual auto of our boys, Craig, our New York City dudes.
I DM'd that to my friend Andrew Mung, a new listener from back home. Second Mung reference on the podcast. He's going to appreciate that. Big Knicks fan. He likes that.
He's among us right now because he's really involved in the podcast. So, and the corniness, if you've listened to episode 1 and 2, you now know what to expect in episode 3. Here's an immaculate dual auto between Marcus Camby, Allen Houston, numbered out of 49, both on-card autos. Here's a Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale dual on-card auto, immaculate collection. And just another level of the card being unique. So that's what I have for those. And then real quick, I'll run through these. What I recently picked up from a buddy in Australia whose name was also Craig. So serendipitous as the great
Craig from Australia.
Yes, Craig from Australia.
Look at that.
We're speaking with Craig from New York. And so here is a Dr. J, Julius Erving, 2014 Prism Gold Pulsar, numbered out of 10, BGS 95, Pop 1. Here is the PSA 10, different version of the Gold Pulsar, same year, Pop 1. Dr. J. Green 2014 Prism, numbered out of 25, PSA 10. It's a Pop 1. And the big man, Wilt Chamberlain, 2014 Prism Red Pulsar, BGS 95, also a Pop 1. So if I see Pop 1 stuff, that's an automatic ding, ding, ding. I mean, that's no secret. Everybody loves Pop 1. But the unique factor is huge, like your Weston McKinney, to kind of similar there for number 2 for us.
A true 101. It's kind of cool. I feel like every once in a while I'll see like a PSA 4.5 pop up. I saw one the other day. I think it was a PSA 5.5. I'm like, you never see that. So I feel like anything in a PSA 5.5 is a Pop 1.
Could be.
Right? A lot of them. You got to wonder what's going on in the graders day, like mine that day, like 5 or 6. I don't know. That 5.5 sounds real good right now for this 87 Topps card.
That's rare to see.
Mount Rushmore number 3. I am curious, by the way. This was a complete knockoff of like the Barstool Mount Rushmore podcast theme.
Yes, pardon my take. Yes,
pardon my take. I am curious how many of our listeners got that like connection going in.
Hopefully, we could get close to as many listeners as one of the most popular sports podcasts in the country.
Yeah, good for them for doing it 3 times a week. All right, third one for me. Players and teams that I root for or enjoy watching. So here's an easy one. If you're a Knicks fan, this is Bernard King, Walt Frazier, dual patch auto. We were just talking autographs. The cool thing about this is from 06-07 SP Game Used. The patch window is tiny, right?
Right.
But somehow each of them in that tiny patch window, we got some 3-color chunky patches. The sticker autos, that's okay. I could live with that. But, I mean, bold signatures, 2 of the greatest Knicks of all time. Walt Frazier is my greatest Knick of all time. I traded a Derek Jeter graded autograph to Santiago Sports for this card, straight up. I saw it in a story sale. I'm like, I can give you good value on this. Trade it to me. Keeping this one forever. It's always going to be a part of – I'm a huge Knicks fan. So it's always going to be a part of Knicks history. I think this is the type of card that could be like hanging in Madison Square Garden as people are walking around for games and there's like a Knicks museum. That type of museum type Knicks piece, in my opinion. So it's fun to look at. And then looking towards the future, I'm a big fan of the U.S. men's national team. So here's a Pulisic McKinney dual autograph out of 10. Graded it myself, got an 8, which I'll live with. The fun thing about this was I remember exactly where I was when I won the auction. I was at Thanksgiving in Denver skiing for the first time. Hated every second of it, but that's a story for another day. I was with my brother-in-law who likes cards. I bid on this. I'm like, yes, glad to have it. In my opinion, if by 2026 the USA is a real contender, which I think they will be, this is going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, U.S. men's national team card, like period. Maybe not the most valuable, but you talk about unique, it's out of 10. You just don't find these. And if the team's successful, this is as good as it gets. USMNT Grail, if you will.
And are those like the 2 big dogs? Are those the 2 big dogs on the U.S. men's soccer team, in your opinion?
It's arguably, yeah. We can do a whole episode about that. I'm not going to get into it, but Pulisic and McKinney, yeah, probably the guys who are really going to carry us. Biggest names.
Okay. All right. Now I got mine.
The fun thing is being able to root for them as they're going and holding on to it and just like being a part of it. So I had to get that point in there.
No, that's great. I recently had a Ronaldo auto that I traded for a Jokic flawless patch auto, and I was so ready to root for Portugal in the World Cup. And now I don't care at all about Portugal. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Like all of our Portuguese listeners across the pond. I'm really sorry. Okay, here we go. Number 3.
Boom.
And I'm going to pull up a photo also of Mount Rushmore because I feel like it deserves its just due, which I've been there twice, and it's much smaller than I thought. I mean, I'm not lying.
It's incredible, though.
It's incredible. Have you been there?
I have not.
Okay, it's incredible to see in person. It's an archaeological, amazing stonework and incredible team, what they did, like 100 years ago. Doesn't take away from it. It was just a little bit smaller than I thought. No slight against the builders.
I'm
Great
sorry you
job
couldn't.
still. Great. I mean, great job, building it. I just had to add that in. But definitely
Well,
worth seeing.
if I ever go, I'll lessen my expectations now.
Okay. Yeah, it's only one of the most amazing feats of mankind ever. Speaking of this man here, Jack Nicklaus did one of the most amazing things with a golf club we've ever seen. 18 majors to Tiger's 15. So some still consider him the GOAT. As we mentioned in episode 1, I showed off this card a little bit. But this falls into my third on the Mount Rushmore, which is the story behind the card. Either the story behind the card itself, like for this one, which is a 1971 Barrett & Co. True Rookie of Jack Nicklaus in a PSA 8. The story here, it was from a London tobacco company, and it's amazing that it's the first ever card that Jack Nicklaus was printed on. So it could be the story behind the card itself, or it could be how it makes you feel, the stories that it brings up for you in sports history. I'm going to throw a complete curveball at you, Craig. Do you know who this is? Cameron Krutwig.
I don't. Bonus shots.
Okay, this is a rookie auto of the big man for Loyola Chicago when they made their incredible Final Four run in the 2018 March Madness basketball tournament. And Sister Jean, 103 years old now.
She was the biggest winner out of all that.
She was the face of the team. It was like, how can you not root for them? Not only are they an underdog, the chaplain of their team is a 100-year-old little old lady who still has the spirit. She's pumping them up in the crowd. She's doing the post-game interviews. And not only that, they're hitting game winners in the first round, the second round, the third round. And they made it all the way to the Final Four. And this man, very mobile, big guy, tough. He kind of looked like Hagrid out there, honestly. But he was awesome. And so it's a sticker auto, but I got it in a trade. And I was telling my buddy at work earlier, I'm like, this is like a $1, $2 card, maybe. But to me, it elicits, I mean, you just heard in our voices like Sister Jean, oh my gosh, Loyola Chicago. And we both got pumped up. And this card just reminds me, so you have like a $2,000, $2,500 Jack Nicklaus card or a 50-cent Cameron Krutwig rookie auto from Loyola Chicago that can, I almost dropped Cameron there, that can, give you the story behind the card, which is why I chose Teddy Roosevelt, because he has an incredible story of building out our national parks, the Rough Riders defending the country. So what a story for that president and Cameron Krutwig, Jack Nicklaus. The story behind the card really hits home for me.
I like that. So were you a big fan of the Loyola team that year?
Yeah. I mean, I always love an underdog. So that was great. And then the Sister Jean, I mean, little old ladies melt my heart. So that really just added another element to it that I'll never forget that team. That March Madness. We love the Cinderella stories like St. Peter's, the Peacocks. Recently.
Oh, yeah, New Jersey. Were you broadcasting when the Loyola team was playing? Like, do you get to talk about that on the air? Or the St. Peter's, for example?
2018 was just before I moved to Wyoming to start my first on-camera job in the beautiful cowboy state. Nice. So much Wyoming pride out there. There's only one 4-year school. It's the Wyoming Cowboys. Everybody's a Pokes fan. They love Josh Allen as well. But I was broadcasting the St. Peter's. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's a state legend. The St. Peter's Peacocks, I was hyping them up, even here in Southern Oregon, 3,000 miles away from the campus. So, people just want to root for an underdog, somebody who's not supposed to be there. Everybody's felt like an underdog in their life at some point. So the story behind it.
I like that a lot. I'm looking at some cards of mine that all bring about stories. Kind of going off track here, I guess, but yeah, every single one of these, like that card I got on my honeymoon.
Yes. Oh, I was just thinking about that. Can you explain like the story, not only of the card itself, like the rookie card of Jack Nicklaus, or what story in sports history the card brings up, but it could be the story of how you got the card.
Personal story. There you go. That's a lot of mine. First ever game used card I got was this Derek Jeter game used ball card. It's probably like a
Ooh.
$40 card, but it was what's it called? Supermarket, the shopping center near my house growing up. It was like the
Okay.
50% off card store. And so this is 2000 Upper Deck. So I was 7 or 8 years old. And this was the first game used card I ever got. I remember the card's pretty thick. And I didn't realize what the thick card was. So if you look at one of the corners, I tried like peeling it because I thought it was cards stuck together. But it was just my first ever game used card. How about that? One in every like
Beautiful.
288 packs. And me being 9 years old, no, not even 7 or 8, and remembering exactly where I was, the stories that the cards connected to. That's like the personal element of it for me. I got a lot of cards like that. Wasn't on my Mount Rushmore. You just had me going off on a tangent over here.
Hey, that's what we do.
All right, number 4. So Mount Rushmore for me so far has been card I look to pick up. It's got to look cool. It's got to look cool. It's got to have the X Fractor. It It
Nice.
could be a team that I root for and care about. A lot of these are really combinations of the three. And the last one for me is, I think, is this card a card I'm going to want 10 years from now? So I remember going to card shows when I was, 14, 15, and I wouldn't even barely look at singles. I was mostly going right to the wax. It's funny, the same wax guys are still around today at the shows, the Long Island shows. Me and my dad would get a box or two, way more affordable then. We rip whatever I get from the boxes. That's how I build my collection. And we weren't buying these like high-end cards. Like I see Ultimate Collection. I remember Ultimate Collection being, that $400 a box. Couldn't afford that one pack rip, but those are the high-end brands then. And I remember seeing, I guess, like Michael Jordan, LeBron autographs back then, thinking, well, in hindsight, like, yeah, I think they were selling $400 or $500. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe autographs. So I try to think, all right, 10 years from now, what do I not want to be looking back on thinking, man, I should have picked up more of this stuff. So one I'm big on is Giannis on-card stuff. So if Giannis wins another championship or 2 or 3, 15, 20 years, I mean, this is going to be incredible card. It already is.
Craig, real quick, I don't want to cut you off, but do you still think that Giannis is underrated? I mean, 2 MVPs, Finals MVP, NBA championship. He dropped 50 in that game 7. I feel like that's not talked about enough. Like, and his other stats on top of that. Like, if LeBron did that in a game 7, can you imagine how much more that would be blown up than Giannis?
Yeah, and by the way, the card is a 14-15. So second year is the type of Giannis stuff I like picking up. Crown Royale. It's kind of like a die cut just at the top. On-card autograph out of 75, and he signed it like the GA 34. I picked this up from Frank at Behind the Diamonds Hicksville show. How you like that? Full circle.
Okay. Keep it on Long Island.
Long Island, yeah, exactly. So this was that John show. Picked it up. I like that one. LeBron 04 autographs, for example. Had you picked them up then, get them now. And I'm not saying Giannis is going to be LeBron, but I mean, face of the league, once LeBron, KD, Curry are out of the league, it's going to be Giannis for a while, right? We think.
Yeah.
I was able to get my hands on a Michael Jordan autograph.
This came from you pulled out a big one. You got to watch this on the YouTube Crosstown Cardboard.
This came from Extraordinary Cards. How about that? Everyone, all the references are just popping up now.
Dave, shout out to Dave. That's where my Tiger Woods came from, Extraordinary Cards.
And I was able to trade my way into this one where it didn't cost me too much out of pocket. But again, a card 10, 15, 20 years from now, which I know I'll hold because I have cards right here that I've had for 10, 15 years. So here are more that I'm going to hold on to. I think I'll be very happy I did. If you believe in the cards long term, I don't think they're going anywhere.
And this is a little sidetrack, Craig, but as far as like the investment side of cards, the 10, 15 years down the road, one of the reasons I picked up this Tiger Woods Pop 50 rookie auto and a BGS 9.5 that's in my background. And you have, a similar rookie card level, a PSA 8 of Michael Jordan, 1986 Fleer right behind you. Do you think that people like the Joker or like Giannis, 2-time MVPs, but foreigners, non-American players, will hold the same value down the road as the American guys that are more relatable to the United States market?
I think they're becoming more like they are relatable to the U.S. market. Everyone loves Luca. You know, he just signed. He has a huge deal with Jordan Brand, for example. I guess the only example we have is Dirk, and I've bought and sold and traded a few Dirk cards, but he always seems to have demand. People
Yeah.
like him.
Yes.
Luca's a superstar at 23. His cards. You know what my problem is with a lot of these modern players? Like I love Luca. I don't know what card to get. I wouldn't know which one to get if I was looking to hold something long term and really believe in. Because I don't love a lot of the ultra modern stuff. But
What about
foreigners, I
like
don't know.
a
Time will tell.
Contender's rookie ticket? I always feel like the rookie ticket autos are some of the or the rated rookie autos. Like I look for on card rookie autos if I'm
True.
going to hold somebody long term.
I'm with you there. Tell me, yeah. So my, I think it's not just from an investment standpoint. Like I have certain cards here that I've had for 10 years just because, like, I pack pulled it. You know, I have
Yeah.
Jim Brown autograph. Not crazy
Oh
or
wow.
anything, but I pulled this myself in 2008. So I've had that for almost 15 years. So I'm just gonna, why get rid of it now? Might as well keep it part of the collection.
Yeah, and going off what you said as far as the story behind getting the card, I remember I was in the Food Emporium parking lot in Ossining, New York. My mom sent me over to CVS to buy some time so she could get some shopping done at the grocery store. I opened a pack. Inside was a dual game used jersey card between Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. When they used to do the East and the West duel, I have it somewhere. It's tucked away. And just the amazement, the feeling of pulling that card as a kid, knowing it was worth some money, and like these are the two goats of the last two generations, especially that was before LeBron even started coming up. And I was probably like 10 years old, so 18 years ago. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like holding it so carefully. And I remember like, trying not to damage anything before getting back home, putting it in a penny sleeve and getting it tucked away. But I remember having it almost involved in a trade. And I said, if I walk out of here and I traded the best card I pulled from a pack as a kid, I'll never forgive myself. So I pulled it out of the trade and I said, yeah, I still have it. It's put away. I'll have to pull it out. But I just knew what the emotional toll was going to be on me had I let that card go.
Yeah, kind of like I have this David Wright jersey card that symbolizes my fanhood as a mid 2000s Mets fan. And I pulled this from Target, put it immediately in a screw down, not a magnetic. And it's been in there ever since. So if you think about it, right, this card's worth $5, $10. Why get rid of it at this point? Pulled it myself in 2006. It's part of my collection. Yeah, good stories. This was the Comac Target on Jericho Turnpike on Long Island.
Nice. And that's, I mean, we buy and sell and trade cards, but we also collect. I think we're collectors first. And that's that's really the whole reason we wanted to start this podcast to begin with. And I feel like establishing our Mount Rushmore of card qualities so early on into what is hopefully a long podcast journey with us. And like we mentioned, we'll have guests on as well, sports card therapists, Cousins Collectibles, the list goes on as far as people we want to have on. But I think establishing what we look for in a card is kind of cool so early on so that, the great people who are following along with us can know where we're coming from and where we stand and, kind of start off that way. So let me hit my number 4, which is the resale. What's that? Yes. Oh, I'll give you a recap. Here we go. Okay. Number 1, George Washington, the first impression for the first president. Number 2, unique, Abraham Lincoln, the beard, the Emancipation Proclamation, the different thoughts, progressive thoughts at the time. The uniqueness is number 2. 3, the story behind it. Teddy Roosevelt expanding our national parks and the Rough Riders. So we got, real quick, first impression, uniqueness, and the story behind the card or how you got it. The 4th one for me, resale potential, because we're buying, we're also selling, and we're trading. So thinking about what's my exit strategy for this card if I get tired of it, if I'm more of the mentality on this card of love them and leave them rather than love it and stick with it forever. I don't want to get too much into relationship things. It's coming up on Halloween, not Valentine's Day. But the resale potential for Thomas Jefferson, our third president, and also the main writer of the Declaration of Independence for our financial independence. Imagine this, Craig, 33 years old. He wrote possibly the most important document in American history, 1776, only 3 years from your age and 5 years from my age, writing the
I'm trying to think
Declaration
of
of Independence.
the most important thing I've ever written. Not much.
But you have the card club to change a lot of
Mm.
lives. I mean, these New York City public school kids, giving them an outlet, giving them a financial independent start. I mean, hey, don't discount what you're doing.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm playing, but I write emails. I write good emails to my players and my team. There you go. That's my That's my weekly declaration of independence.
There you go. And so here's my final one in picture form. And I'll describe some of these cards. Resale potential. So some of the big names in each sport. So I'll just go through some of the cards that I've recently bought and sometimes sold, like this Kobe game used 3-color patch. Absolute.
That's the number 8?
So
4?
This is number
what
24, but it was, I don't know what year it was.
No, the number, is it number 2, number 4, number 8?
Oh, I don't know. Well, he has 24 on in the jersey, so I'm not sure exactly where that card, like what part of the jersey that card is from. But like, what's the resale potential? How many people are going to be interested in buying this card? Should I choose to move it? Which a lot of times I'm looking to sell, quite a few cards, although some are untouchable. Guys I always love, like resale guys. Shaq is a big one because he's pretty affordable. His on-card autos are great. LeBron, of course, here's a quick game-used jersey. Magic, Prism Auto, Wayne Gretzky, which is the only hockey card I've ever owned, but GOATs in any sport I'm always looking for. Mike Trout, yes, exactly, the great one. Mike Trout on-card auto. Liquidity, yes, exactly. Okay. And trade potential, too. So, like, how liquid, like when you got that Zion card, that optic orange that we went through in the last episode, involved in the trade for the Giannis and Greg Monroe game used 1 of 1. You knew you're not really collecting Zion, but you knew that's a liquid card that you can move into stuff you want to keep.
Yeah, it helped me. It was part of the deal for the McKinney Superfractor. So there you go.
Exactly.
I knew I'd be able to use it for something I actually wanted to keep. You talk about like flipping and investing. Every once in a while, you need to sell some stuff to make more purchases. A little flip here and there. I just used to go back into the hobby anyway. But yeah, I get it. Like people want Jeter, people want Gretzky. You can't really lose there.
And there's nothing wrong with making a little money. Like people who act like they don't sell, that's your hobby journey is going to quickly come to an end if you're only buying and you're just investing money back into the hobby and or from your real life into the hobby life, and you're never recycling that money. You're going to run out pretty soon. And we talked about last episode, we got a viewer submitted question about, keeping your budget, maintaining your life money and your personal money. And just to kind of wrap it all up with my Mount Rushmore, as far as the first impression, unique, the story behind the card or the player on it, and the resale potential. Here's this Jerry Rice, flawless, on-card auto, numbered out of 5, color match with the red, and a game-used patch. This checked all my boxes. You have a Hall of Famer, the best wide receiver of all time. A lot of people would consider, although if I was choosing who to have on my team, Randy Moss would be right up there. So, you got to pick your poison there. But either way.
This helps me because I actually don't know the flaw, like the market for something like this at all. But to get an idea, can I guess what the value of something like that is?
Yeah, go ahead.
$1,200.
You were right on.
Boom.
You were right on. If you look up the last comp, it was $1,250, and I moved it for around that in trade value in order to get that Jack Nicklaus that I got. So I moved a card that I liked but was okay moving for a card that now, I'd have to really get a good price on that Jack Nicklaus rookie because it's a pop 237, only 46 higher. True rookie of the Golden Bear, possibly the GOAT of golf, along with Tiger. And so, the resale potential is key for me, just to know if I don't love this card or if I want to move off of it, and I flip, certain segments of cards as well, will somebody else be interested in this? So guys like Magic, Bird, of course, Jordan is very liquid. LeBron, Kobe, Dennis Rodman is an underrated one that a lot of people like, that I personally really like a lot, because it goes back to the wow factor too. The initial first impression, you see Dennis Rodman, there's no way you can think, man, that was just an average guy.
I like that he was on the card with Garnett. They're, I guess,
how much
similar,
attitude is on that card, Greg?
Very unique. Very unique. So just to recap, I'm glad I got that comp pretty spot on.
Hey, you're the man. You're the numbers guy. I mean, that was right on.
Yeah, true to this, not new to this. So to recap, what I look for in a card, and you hope the card has as many of these qualities as possible. I want it to look good, right? Aesthetically pleasing. That's number one. Two, it's got to have that X factor.
Like yourself.
Stop. Number two, the X factor. You just see it, you hold it, you're like, yep, I need this. It doesn't happen all the time. The third one is some sort of team or player that I root for. There are players that I like I like Curry, I like Giannis, but really, like, what do I care most about? My teams, the Knicks and like the U.S. national team. And then thinking long-term, what cards do I just think 10, 15, 20 years from now are still they're going to just continue to be in demand. Notice how I haven't really thrown out any numbers, because it's kind of, it's safe. It's safe in a sense. I don't really have to worry about ever, losing on this, because someone made a good point once regarding your collection is you hope, this is just as someone who doesn't do this full time. I hope to never be in a position in life where I have to sell these, because that means I'm doing something well, right? I have a career, financially I'm safe, but just know that if I had to, you have certain stuff where you'd be in a position to, and that's just where the investment part of it comes in. But there's a reason certain stuff is worth more. The autograph, the patch, they only make like one of this design, the superfractor, so there's a reason it costs more. And yeah, hope I don't have to move these things ever, but I'm pretty confident in that they'll maintain their value, I think, long term here.
And that's another great hedge against hobby inflation, or the inflation hitting the sports card hobby. And you're seeing a lot of people worried about their prices going down. But if your card is unique and you like the story behind it, you personally are going to be much less likely to panic sell. And your card, because it's unique, is going to be much less likely to decline in value as a result as well. So just to recap my Mount Rushmore of what attracts us to a card. First is the first impression. What's your initial feeling when you see that card the first 10 seconds? Second one, the uniqueness, like we talked about. How many are in the pop report? What is this numbered out of? Is there another KG and Dennis Rodman on-card auto on the same card? The story behind either the card itself, how you got the card, or what story it makes you think of in sports history. Shout out to Cameron Krutwig and Loyola Chicago making the Final Four. # Sister Jean. And the final one is the resale potential. Do you have an exit strategy to sell this card? Will other people be interested in this player, type of card, the brand? And so you can continue to keep that wheel turning and leveling up into different cards that you want, or cards that you'll keep for a long time.
I like it. And I think some overlap there and some unique ones.
That's right.
That's Crosstown Cardboard. Speaking of which, I have a good New York City story for you.
Okay.
Only appropriate for this Crosstown Cardboard podcast with a couple New Yorkers. I forgot I was at Bleecker Trade Night last week. I just forgot to mention this last week. Last week was my flu game, but we got through it.
Oh, come on. You've recovered fully. I'm your Scottie Pippen holding you up as we go to the bench.
Okay. You're the best. But I was when I was at the Bleecker Trade Night, I ran into a couple friends, Alex and JD. They work at the Hobbyist. The Hobbyist is another kind of hangout spot, social club, private appointment type place in New York City. They're great people. I came in Did a cool trade with them. Got to know the guys, the Hobbyists NYC on Instagram, and sold my buddy JD some U.S. men's national team cards. We started talking, and I'm like, "Oh, I noticed Sheck West goes into your store a lot. You know Sheck West,
Young Sheck West, and is that Mo Bamba, right?
Mo Bamba. So Sheck West is from, and Mo Bamba are from Harlem, a couple of New York City guys.
Okay.
So I was talking to them about Sheck West. He likes to rip wax. And they're like, oh, actually, he was interested in the Ronaldo card that you, meaning myself, had traded in when I went to the Hobbyist a couple months back.
Okay.
So to recap, I was at the Hobbyist. I did a trade. I traded, as part of the trade, it was this Ronaldo card. Sheck West is a frequent at the Hobbyist, and he was interested in my Cristiano Ronaldo card. So Sheck West almost bought my Ronaldo. Yeah.
Wow. So you're saying we almost got a feature on a hit rap song remix.
Basically is what happened there.
Wow. That's cool. And that can be another story of why you love the hobby too.
The connections, right?
The connections. We should have put that in our Mount Rushmore. That's the bonus. That's the bonus. That's like the Barack Obama, like maybe the fifth head on Mount Rushmore. Like, the connections and the community in the hobby that you can create.
That's right. We could do a whole episode about that. In other hobby news, my doorman gave me his old baseball cards to look at.
Let's go.
I'm gonna have to tell him that.
That's what you're gonna say to your doorman who was so generous. You're gonna go back and you're gonna go. You're gonna not thank him when he holds open the door. You're just gonna scoff and
listen. I'm way nicer than that. I'm not actually gonna say. I will. I'll try to.
Oh my god! Nicer than that. If you're not watching, Craig got like hundreds of cards from this doorman.
Junk wax baseball. I'm definitely not gonna say. I'm gonna say. How should I phrase it? Thanks for showing me your collection. I enjoyed it. Keep these. That's it's a lot of personal memories.
These are for you.
Yes.
These are for you.
But yeah, it's good. Cards everywhere. Bleecker had a kids trade night. My doorman giving me cards. I open up stickers from Dwayne Reed. Cards. It's fun. World Cup in less than a month.
And Card Club starting up soon.
What do you got going on? Are you any shows in the Pacific Northwest?
Not at the moment, but I do plan on going to Dallas in January for the Dallas Card Show. My first real large scale show. And I'm interested to see because a lot of people are pessimistic on the hobby right now. Yeah. So I'm willing to see what the feel is. I just had a Facebook sale in a few of the card groups and an Instagram story sale. Lots of trading, but not too much cash buying. So we'll continue to monitor that on Crosstown Cardboard in the future episodes as well.
I always talk about how I prefer the in-person experience. I think at a show like that, you'll see a lot of success. You'll make a lot of things happen.
Yes. And we could be talking about show behavior, show etiquette, or stuff like that in future episodes as well. So you have to stay tuned.
Tons of ideas. Did you see that thing that I posted, my friend with the light up card?
No, what was that?
So he my friend Scott, it's this product where you put a raw card and you plug it in, it kind of lights up around it. So he gave it to me and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And what Scotty doesn't know is that now that he gave me a product, I mean, that kind of makes me an influencer now, right?
Are we pumping? Am I pumping Larry Bird? Because nobody knows how good Larry Bird is.
No, I'm just shouting out a friend. Scott's a good dude. The product's in China anyway, so he said it's too expensive to ship here. But yeah, don't pump Larry Bird for your own personal gain.
All right, I'm not gonna say that I'm wearing a Steve Nash
sweet
Suns uniform either. So we don't want to.
Seconds or less.
Mike D'Antoni, yes.
D'Antoni, yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Well, speaking of seconds and time, we have hit 50 minutes. So
longest one yet.
Right? I know, longest one yet. Well, it was a great one. I thought it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Our Mount Rushmore. Any last thoughts? Any last thoughts before we wrap it up?
This has been fun. I like how the topics just come to themselves, and as we participate, We'll keep coming up with new ideas. Send suggestions, send questions. Thank you to listeners taking their time to listen.
Yes, big thank you for watching and listening to now 3 episodes of Crosstown Cardboard. Episode 4 coming next week, and we'll see you guys then.